Let's talk about mean and median and taxing people and supplementing other people's income, or maybe the same people. Some people are in favor of more of that, some people are in favor of less of that. Let's look at the math of it. So let's say we tax every household 10% of their income, which would be called a flat tax, right? And then split the money up equally between all the households. What happens to the mean? What happens to the median? Instead of considering the whole income distribution, let's just consider 3 households. One that has a low income, lower than the median, one that's kind of in the middle, and one that's higher than the mean or the median. So the mean is just $60,000 a year, because the sum is 180, and then divide by the 3 households. And the median is $50,000 a year. Let's tax each one 10%, so that household with $30,000 a year pays $3,000 a year. The household with $50,000 pays $5,000. The household with $100,000 a year pays $10,000 a year. What's the sum of these 3? It is 18, which is not a coincidence that it's 10% of 180. And if you divide that 18 by 3, 18 divided by 3 is 6. So if we're going to give back an equal share of this money to the 3 households, each of them should get $6,000. So let's look at the overall, what happens. This lower income household starts at 30, gets taxed $3,000, gets given $6,000, so they end up at 33. 50,000 taxed 5%, and then add $6,000. And 100,000 taxed 10% and add $6,000. So what happened? So these are their final net incomes. What happened to the mean? Well, the mean of these, the sum is still 180,000, because we didn't create or destroy any money. We took it from each household and then shuffled it around and gave it back. So the sum is still 180 divided by 3. The mean is still 60, like it was up here. But the median is now 51 rather than the 50 that it was up there. So overall, what can we say about redistributing income like this? Does it have an effect on the average income? Well, on the mean, no, but on the median, yes. And it has a higher effect on people at the lower end of the income distribution, a higher positive effect. Directly on the bottom line. The people at the upper end of the income distribution did see a net loss. You could argue about whether they would still see it as a good thing for society overall. Now, this is a purely math, mean, and median kind of argument. There's other important things. People worry about secondary effects and unintended consequences. And one way to think about that in a math kind of way is that we're always thinking about, well, there's false positives and false negatives. In theory, we don't want either of those to happen, but there's kind of a trade-off. The more false positives you're willing to tolerate, the more false negatives you can avoid, and vice versa. And different people have different impressions of how often people get aid that they don't need, and how often people don't get aid when they actually do need it. So that's part of the politics of our society. I did find a quick statistic that the rate of fraud in the food stamp program is under 1.5%. That it used to be higher, but now it's under 1.5%. So that's just one little data point for you.